I'm going to give you 10 signs today that your body is stuck in a stress addiction cycle, which means your body is in survival mode. It means your stress response has been activated. You're in that fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and that is going to only have a negative impact on your ability to take action, to feel happy, to feel joy, to feel self-love, right? There's all these people out there talking about self-love, but you will have a profoundly hard time loving yourself as a person, as who you are, if you are in stress addiction. All of the cliches that are out there, the be authentic, the share your voice, all of that is so much harder when you are in stress addiction. So without further ado, let's get into the top 10 signs that you're addicted to stress. Number 1, you are overly emotional and you feel like your emotions control you. They just hijack you out of nowhere. You find yourself in tears out of nowhere. You find yourself boiling with anger out of nowhere. If you get really, really angry, like to the point where it disturbs your emotional stability, that's not even the right word, your emotional, if it tips your emotional seesaw in any way, teeter-totter, then you're in stress addiction. So this past week, the latest thing on social media that is causing uproar is some football kicker gave a very Catholic values-based talk at a Catholic university about women. It's okay to be a housewife and a mom and a wife and a homemaker, and all these women so up in arms, making all these videos and posts about it. If it rattles you that much, then you're in a stress addiction. If what a celebrity says rattles you that much, you're in an active stress addiction, okay? If you're watching TV and or the news or whatever, you get super emotional. If you find yourself emotionally triggered by others' opinions or what they do or what they don't do or what they do say, what they don't say, you're in stress addiction. Sign number 1. Number 2 is that you don't feel hungry first thing in the morning. Here's why. When you are in a stress addiction, your fight, flight, freeze response is activated. Now, we have 2 nervous systems. We have the sympathetic nervous system. We have the parasympathetic nervous system. Your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic, okay? You can only have blood flowing to one or the other. So when the sympathetic is activated, your blood is flowing to your arms, to your legs, to your eyes, so that you can see how to fight or how to run away. It's going to your arms, your legs, so that you can punch and kick and, or run away. If the blood goes to the parasympathetic nervous system, this is where you're able to digest your food and you're able to repair any damage done during the fight flight mode. So this is where we want to be ideally when we're going to sleep, for example. If you run, so I'm actually starting to run again. I'm training for a 5K in the fall, but I used to run half marathons. And one thing if you've ever watched a marathon, half marathon, triathlons, is sometimes you see the athletes poop themselves, right? They get diarrhea, they poop themselves. And this is because their body, during the race, activates the sympathetic nervous system. And then they get to the recharge stations and they take these gels. Well, the body says, we don't have time to break down this food right now, so we got to eliminate it. And so it comes right out them, and that's where they get the diarrhea, right? If your sympathetic nervous system is activated, your body feels like the bear is chasing you. The last thing that you want to do when a bear is chasing you is sit down and have a meal. So if you're not hungry in the morning, that is the sign that your body is in stress addiction. Okay? And you can come at me with all the intermittent fasting, blah, blah, blah nonsense that you want. Intermittent fasting, especially for women, not healthy. Dysregulates your hormones, still keeps you in stress addiction mode. Fasting is a stress on the body. Okay? Number 3, you're tired all the time, except after a workout, you're super energized. And that's because when you go to do the workout, your body is now like, now the bear's chasing us even harder. We have to release adrenaline on top of the cortisol, the other stress hormone. And adrenaline gives you that high feeling for a short period of time. So if you are tired all the time, tired, you do a workout, you're like, whew, I'm energized, and then you crash, that is a sign that you are in stress addiction. Number 4, you always have to be moving. You can't sit still. You can't just play with your kids. You've got to be playing with your kids while making dinner, while on your phone scrolling. You can't. This is where mine tends to show up when I'm in a stress addicted state. You can't just watch a movie or a TV show. You got to be scrolling your phone. You got to be doing other things at the same time. Okay, you can't just sit and relax. You always have to be busy. This was my dad to a T. You know, he's a blue collar man, grew up with not a lot of money, tons of stress addiction, and so he struggles to sit still. Always has to be doing something. Okay? So, that is sign number 4. Sign number 5 is that you need coffee for energy. Not just, oh, coffee's a nice have. Not just, oh, I like my coffee and it's a pleasurable part of my morning. It's, I need coffee to have any sort of energy. When I first met Sid, this was him. This was part of how his stress addiction showed up. If he didn't have coffee in the first 30 minutes of waking up, he was awful to be around, not very pleasant, and he would get intense headaches. Now, there's some days where he just forgets to have his coffee because he's done so much work on healing and regulating the nervous system and breaking the stress addiction. But if you're not a functioning human until you get that brown liquid in you, you've got a stress addiction. Okay? Where are we at? Number 6, low sex drive. The reason being, the same pathway from your brain to your body that turns on stress hormone production, cortisol and adrenaline, is the same pathway that we use to produce sex hormones. So testosterone in men, estrogen in women. And so that pathway, think of it like a conveyor belt. That conveyor belt is being used for something else. So, fun fact, most people don't know this about me. I don't even know if Sid knows this about me. I worked at Pepsi Cola for a summer after high school. My mom had been working there for 24 years. She got me a job for the summer. Now, they have these assembly lines, right? Like you walk into the factory and it's like one massive assembly line. And you'll look at the schedule and it'll say from 6 a.m. until 10 a.m. they're running Pepsi. And then there'll be a 30-minute changeover, and then they'll run 7-Up, right? Or whatever other Pepsi products they have. So think of it if they're producing Pepsi, the only thing that's coming through on the conveyor belt, on the assembly line, is Pepsi. And each different area has their own job with Pepsi, and they're all doing the Pepsi thing. And then there's the 30-minute switchover where the lines get cleaned out, and now we move into 7-Up. It's the same thing in the body. If this conveyor belt is being used for stress hormones, you can't add in sex hormones there to increase your arousal. And so this pathway is full 24/7 with the stress hormones. All of a sudden it's going to mess up your sex hormones, and you will have a lower sex drive. You'll just be like, meh, just apathetic, not really want it. Okay? Cold hands, feet, or nose. So when we are in a stress addicted state, it starts to negatively impact the liver. And there's a whole bunch of ways that it negatively impacts the liver. But one of the results of the liver not functioning properly. A lot of people don't know this, but your thyroid, which is connected to your metabolism, which is connected to how warm you are, right? If you have a healthy metabolism that's functioning well, that's, burning energy as it comes in, then you will be warm most of the time, unless it's really, a cold environment. But even then, you'll be able to shiver and warm yourself up. If you have a slow metabolism, or your metabolism's not functioning effectively, then you're more likely to be cold all the time. When I had eating disorders, I was cold all the time, could never get warm. In fact, I know the state of my metabolism by whether or not I need to take a sweater with me on summer days, or whether I know that I'm just always going to be hot and warm and I don't need it. Okay? So so the thyroid produces thyroid hormone. T3 and T4 is what it's called. I don't want to go too deep in the biology. But the hormones that our thyroid produces are inactive. And it's actually in our liver that it gets converted from inactive to active. So if our liver is being negatively impacted by stress hormones, then our liver is not able to complete all of its functions, and one of those is converting from inactive to active, which then slows down our metabolism. Now our hands, our feet, our nose are cold. Okay? Next one. This one is for the ladies. Painful periods, PMS, like intense PMS symptoms. We've been told our whole lives that this is normal, to have intense cramps, endometriosis, PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome, to be really cranky and mood swings and all of that. None of that is normal. All of that is a sign of a dysregulation of hormones, often caused by too much stress in the body. So when I regulated my hormones, this might be too much information, but I'm going to share it anyways. I used to be in the fetal position for at least 1 or 2 days a month, to the point where Sid was every month, do I need to take you to the doctor? And I'm like, no, I just need a heating pack on my belly and I'll be fine. Okay. I regulated my hormones, broke stress addiction, PMS symptoms disappeared. Not in the fetal position anymore. I'm not horrible to be around for 3 or 4 days of the month. Everything balanced out. It is not normal for us to have that level of intensity. Okay? Next one, we've got 2 more to go. If you're distracted and unable to focus, ADHD is 20% overdiagnosed or misdiagnosed in the US, which means in the US alone, there are 20 million people at least who are walking around thinking that they have ADHD and they do not. Now, I'm not saying you do have ADHD. I'm not saying you don't. What I'm saying is I have clients who thought they had ADHD, and we heal the stress addiction, regulate their nervous system, no more ADHD. Sid was one of those people. I also have clients who legitimately have ADHD. We regulated their nervous system, broke them out of stress addiction. Now they are better able to manage the ADHD. They don't get as distracted, and the lack of focus doesn't hinder them to the same degree as what it did before. Okay, so whether you have been misdiagnosed or not doesn't actually matter, because breaking free of stress addiction is going to make it better and more manageable. And then lastly, sleep problems, insomnia, waking up in a cold sweat, all of those are signs of a stress addiction, because your body is continuing to pump out stress hormone while you're sleeping. That's waking you up. It's like your body thinking, oh my gosh, we fell asleep, where's the bear, right? You're waking up looking for it. That's what's happening. The other thing is cortisol. When cortisol is in the on position and being produced, the sleepy hormone, melatonin, is in the off position. Yes, our body naturally produces melatonin, but it cannot be produced at the same time as cortisol. So if cortisol's on, melatonin's off. And then You all go out there and you make things even worse by taking synthetic melatonin through over the counter or, you know, whatever you get at the drugstore. And then you take that melatonin. Your body is a very efficient machine. And it says, oh, well, if you're going to take melatonin, then I don't have to worry about producing it. And so you then kind of shut off that pathway until you do the right things to start building it back up again. So that contributes to this poor sleeping habits. The insomnia is your body is not naturally producing melatonin. And then even taking synthetic melatonin is only going to have a limited effect because cortisol is still competing with it.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Cycle Breakers. This channel is dedicated to giving you the tools that you need to clear out the blocks holding you back so you can live the life that you desire. Now, before you go, as our special gift to you, we have our 7-day nervous system reset. These are the exact exercises that I give all of our clients in every single one of our programs to help them regulate their nervous system, to make that inner work and clearing out those mental blocks so much easier. The best part, it's absolutely free. Just click on the link in the description below and you'll get instant access.